What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to our meditations on our most recent game of Star Wars Shatterpoint. Victory for the Bounty Hunters in a very decisive three struggles there. I think the second struggle was, well, I wasn't even really in control of that one. I was fighting hard.
That one was really back and forth. You came back with that fantastic, not so fast ability.
Well, it's what kept me in the game for another activation, right? Like, I think if that not so fast did anything else, I think that was going to be game in that struggle.
Probably.
So I prolonged it by a couple turns. Pulling Dooku probably wasn't the right... I mean, I thought he was going to do a little bit more against IG-11. You get the reposition sucked, so you were able to just get back
Hold on
point.
to that point, yeah.
I took a look at what the next card for me was. It was going to be Jango, which who probably would have been a little bit of a better call. Just top decking Jango.
Probably would have felt a little better.
Well, because Jango then just pulls IG-11 off the point, and then he just toodles off over to here and grabs this point, right?
For sure.
So I mean, it could have been a lot better. But I mean, I didn't know Jango was next. I could have just as easily pulled someone I didn't want to see as well. Because I mean, I still had the B2s in there. Who I did not want to see. I had Kraken, who maybe could have done something for me.
Yeah.
But star of the show, I want to say, like, friggin' Mando, man. I could not punch.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I think there was all but, like, one defensive roll where you were just averaging, like, 5 successes.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit off camera, but, like, if you roll perfectly average, because there's 2 results on each die, 2 of each result on each die. If you roll perfectly average, that's 2 blocks and 2 expertise, which... those expertise are 2 more blocks and turning a crit to a fail. So on average, he's blocking 5.
Man, why doesn't he defend like that when I'm using him? Actually, in general, your defensive dice this game were just
good.
Fire.
They were very good, and when they weren't good, like Cad Bane's 6 fails right at the end, it didn't matter. Right?
Yeah,
that was the thing. Like my bad defense rolls never really paired against the attack dice that spiked.
Yeah, and I mean, it was one of those things where, like, even when my dice were doing well, it's like, well, that's just your dice are doing well too. Well, nuts to this. So yeah, it was a very tough game on this particular one. I think my B2s were kind of a weak link in this particular game. They really failed. Like, aside from just kind of like taking some shots, they really failed to do a lot of anything.
They had a very strong opening. When they climbed over and they shoved me off my own back point with that opening salvo, that felt really, really powerful. And then from there, they were just kind of there. Yeah.
After that, like, I think I fell into a trap where I kept going after Mando when I probably shouldn't have, which really kind of hurt.
I think there were a few times where you were looking at targets for your attacks, and I'm like, man, if he goes after Jango right now, or if he goes after Cad right now, I am so scared. And then you shot Mando, and I went,
the problem is when Jango and Cad were targets for me, they weren't on points. They weren't doing anything. Every time I shot into Mando, aside from I think once, it was because I was trying to take him off the point that was up here.
Yeah.
Right? And you just kept blocking everything, so I wasn't getting my shoves off. And the other thing, I mean, both Cad and Jango, like, I didn't touch Jango once this game. So, I mean, I had very little that could one-shot Jango, so there wasn't really a whole lot of benefit to doing so. And Cad was stuck engaged. He wasn't really able to do a whole lot of stuff until the very end there.
Yeah, you pulling him into engagement and then not drawing him for as long as I did was very impactful.
Yeah, so it is what it is. I mean, there was probably some misplays that happened in this game. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is not a list I run a lot.
Yeah, and this was my first game bringing Cad and the Bounty Hunters at the table. I wasn't fully familiar with all the things they did.
They're just good. They're just good. They're just good. Like, Mando does do a lot of heavy lifting in this particular thing, but the Bounty Hunters do help out quite a bit. Cad, when he gets the opportunity to do his thing, is really solid as well.
Yeah. No one gets between me and my job, just kind of flat doing 2 damage.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Oh,
That's really good.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And then because that means a bounty hunter killed someone, I'm going to pay 1 force, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to refresh 2 force and heal myself?
Yes, sir. It's a nice little combo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, just all in all, like, your stuff was where they needed to be. You got some good activation sequences there. And just in general, your plan came to fruition. Yeah. I mean, there's not really much more to say about that. Like, your guys really did well. I thought I was doing really strongly, when I did the 4 damage to the Bounty Hunters early on, and IG-11 I wounded very early on as well. But yeah, and I think that's kind of what it kind of came down to. My damage output was nowhere near where it needed to be. to slow you down.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasted so many actions, so many clapbacks into Mando.
Yeah,
Just trying to get that one friggin' shove.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. This was a particularly weak game for Dooku and the Magna Guard for me as well, I think.
I think that they went down relatively quickly to CAD and IG-11, and then
It was Mando that took out Dooku.
Oh no, it was Mando. You're right.
Yeah.
It was IG-11 softened him, and then
Now you did do a you did do an activate or an action with CAD that should not have happened because he was engaged.
Yeah, it was the no one gets between me and my job. We realized you probably shouldn't have killed Dooku. But
you were already taking that point though.
Yeah.
The only difference is it meant you refreshed force, which you already had a ton of force to begin with, and it gave you some extra momentum. But you were already firmly in control of that struggle by that stage as well.
Bit of a misplay on my part. I apologize to the people in the comments who have already yelled at me.
It happens. It happens. I'll put a note in there that will go vastly ignored, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I would say I think Dooku and the Magna Guard unfortunately had a bad showing today.
I think part of it was that Dooku and they were both kind of really out of position for all the subsequent struggles, and they weren't a fantastic draw at any point where they could have been drawn. And I miserably hate punching Dooku so much
because it
sucks.
Yeah.
So I just, after taking him down, I'm like, you know what? That was way more. That was all the Dooku punching for the next 3 games combined.
Yep.
I'm gonna go do something else.
Yep. And considering he didn't activate until near the very end here,
yes.
It paid off for you.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like Django was the only one. Django and Kraken were the only ones who kind of showed up for me this game.
Kraken did
did work.
His attacks, they were solid. They weren't like amazing, but they were solid attacks. But he moved all your pieces around. He did some really fun stuff. Django, 4 damage, not so fast into Mando. Like, good.
Yeah, no, Django earned his paycheck. Good. Yeah, Django earned his paycheck in this particular game. That's what it really boils down to. I mean, misplays aside, yeah, I think you're right that the struggle polls left Dooku and the Magna Guard kind of like out in the open there, and unfortunately, like everything congregated in the middle there. Mother Talzin she got dogpiled, wasn't really able to do a lot that I needed her to do there, and yeah, that's just the way the game goes sometimes, right? So there we go. Bounty Hunter win in 3 struggles against a poorly played Mama Dooku. There. We will see you guys next time. Happy wargaming.